You may have heard of the original Teletubbies that used to air on most kids' channels from 1997 to 2001. The show had a lot of popularity, and it even had a reboot in 2015, and is now on with new episodes and characters such as the Teletubbies. But let's get into the topic of how I saw a demented episode of the original Teletubbies. I used to be a big fan of the show when I was little. It was all colorful and weird, but not as scary as that one episode that had the lion and the bear magical event. But anyway, let's get started. One day I was in the backyard playing around with a metal detector to find something interesting buried in the soil. As the detector beeped on a coffee table that was sitting there on the grass, I dug it up with a spade, and my eyes caught up a Teletubbies VHS tape with its casing. I know, pretty generic, just some VHS tape buried in the soil. This unknown Teletubbies VHS I found was called Yoga and Other Stories. The VHS cover consisted of the Teletubbies in an orange background, with Tinky Winky waving close to the cover with the other Teletubbies inches away from him. It even had the old school BBFC U rating and BBC logo from 1997 on. On the back of the cover, the episodes were Yoga, Naughty Soap, Apple Pie, and one unheard episode with a strange title called Anger Management. Okay, so it's about how to let out anger, I thought, pretty interested to see it. I rushed toward my room and put it into my VCR. The logos, promos, and the first 3 episodes were normal, but the last episode was shocking and messed up to see. It started with the normal theme song, but the scene where the voice trumpet rises is different. Instead of saying, "Where have the Teletubbies gone?" it said this: "There are 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance." I questioned myself what was going on, feeling curious but weirded out. It was out of the ordinary for the voice trumpet to say that. It cuts to Tinky Winky walking down the grassy hills with flowers in a depressed manner. I don't know what his deal was, but I continued forward. Tinky Winky then sat on the grass and begins to cry for some unknown reason. It didn't sound anything usual at all. It didn't sound like acting. No, it sounded very genuine. The surrounding environment was dark and depressing as well, as it was a cloudy day. "One day in Teletubby Land, Tinky Winky is very upset today," the narrator spoke suddenly. It then only worsened. His crying was more pained, and he was banging one of his fists on the grass in true anger and depression. This isn't the usual Teletubby norm at all. No other Teletubby came to comfort Tinky Winky as his behavior worsened in this scene. Why was he so upset? I questioned curiously. What did they ever do to him? Later on, the windmill began spinning, preparing for a TV event. Tinky Winky stopped crying in his brutally depressed attitude and said, "Uh-oh," in his usually normal tone. He ran towards where the other Teletubbies were at. Lala was chosen for the TV event. Said event was oddly cynical and dark for a preschooler's show. It consisted of a depressed little boy watching TV in the living room, with his parents realistically and loudly arguing in the kitchen for some reason. They were talking about how their marriage became a failure, and then the boy had nothing to do but harm himself in front of his parents. The boy then ran to the kitchen and screamed so loud that it was known to cause damage to my hearing. I covered my ears as it went on. As I uncovered them after the screams had faded, I noticed some blood on the palm of my hands. The boy was throwing a fit of rage, telling his parents to stop, and other things. This kind of action for a kid was out of the ordinary and way too violent. The boy then attempted to beat his parents for their behavior, but the mother, however, grabbed the kid. He was flailing around, screaming, and still threatening them. The act was all too real. He was then put in his room and the mother told him that he will never come out until his behavior changed. Then, the TV event ended. The Teletubbies seemed very worried about what had happened in that TV show. It cuts to the second Tubby segment where the Teletubbies were at their house having Tubby custard. They enjoyed it except for Tinky Winky. He is still not in the mood to drink his Tubby custard. Lala walked up to him and asked, "Why Tinky Winky not drinking Tubby custard?" "Tinky Winky is not in a good mood, Lala," the narrator answered. Then Tinky Winky, in a fit of rage, hit Lala in the head with the Tubby custard, causing it to break and spill all over her. "Why, Tinky Winky?" Dipsy shouted in shock. "Uh-oh," Po said worriedly. "Tinky Winky sad. Tinky Winky mad." Tinky Winky snapped as he runs away from the house, crying realistically. "Seems like that Tinky Winky snapped," the narrator concluded. Lala got up, pretty injured, and asked, "Why Tinky Winky snapped?" "I don't know, Lala," the narrator answered. They got out of the house to find Tinky Winky, which turned out unsuccessful. The environment is still dark and depressing. Finally, one Teletubby, which was tipsy, found Tinky Winky in a deep dark forest, away from Teletubby land, strangely facing away. "Dipsy found Tinky Winky," Dipsy said. "Yes, Dipsy found Tinky Winky," the narrator said. However, Tinky Winky didn't answer or turn around, since he was still facing away from Dipsy and the camera. "Tinky Winky okay?" Dipsy asked, feeling concerned and worried, as it cut to a point of view of him. As Dipsy tapped Tinky Winky, what I saw scared the living daylights out of me. As he turned to face Dipsy, Tinky Winky's face looked unusually horrifying. His skin was white as a snowman, and his face resembled that of a demonic inhuman being with black holes for eyes, and his mouth open like he was screaming, exposing pink gums, white teeth, and a black tongue inside it. He also looked as if he was possessed. It wasn't his voice screaming like in the Lion and Bear episode. It sounded like a woman screaming, like in one of those horror movies. Dipsy yelped in fright and ran off towards his friends. Then Tinky Winky started chasing Dipsy, still screaming piercingly. It cuts back to Teletubby land. Lala and Po were there, searching for Tinky Winky behind the trees. Dipsy ran into the scene and told his friends that Tinky Winky was insane and no longer his happy self. Then the now demonic Tinky Winky appeared and ran towards the three Teletubbies. He lets out that same blood-curdling scream from before, as he just appeared behind the trio. The three Tubbies, except for Po, ran away shouting for help. Po was grabbed by Tinky Winky by her leg, and dragged towards a 5-branch tree. On that tree was a noose that came out of nowhere. Poe was flailing around as Tinky Winky uses the noose and hangs the letter with it, as she coughs up blood from her mouth while gagging in pain. Poe then died. It cuts to Dipsy and Lala running around in fear as the demonic Tinky Winky appeared behind them, letting out that same blood-curdling scream. Lala slips over a puddle that was there for some strange reason. Then Tinky Winky grabbed Lala by her legs and pins her to the ground. He then stabs her in the chest with a thick but sharp and pointy stick, as she grunts in agony. Lala then died. It cuts to Dipsy running into the house, trying not to be found by that deranged Tinky Winky. He hid behind one of the beds as the demented Tinky Winky runs into the house, letting out that scream again. Tinky Winky found Dipsy hiding behind one of the beds. The former then grabs and pins the letter to the floor, and strongly and graphically pulls his head from his body. Dipsy then died. Tinky Winky then breaks the Tubby custard machine and even Tubby toaster with his mighty rage, causing a house fire to happen, as Tinky Winky escapes. It cuts to the Sun Baby. She starts crying at the disaster that happened to the Teletubbies. It cuts to the Tubby Bye-Bye segment where the voice trumpet rises. Instead of saying, "Time for Tubby Bye-Bye" 3 times, it said this: "Tinky Winky has lost it now. There is nothing we can do to stop him." It then cuts to the credits where the fire was barely seen inside the Teletubbies house. All the Teletubbies were dead, except for Tinky Winky. The Sun Baby was still crying as she sat, as the credits rolled. Then it cut to black. I looked at that black screen for a few minutes, which was a mistake. I was jump scared by the same demonic Tinky Winky face with that same screaming sound. Frightened, I rewound the tape as my mom arrived from shopping. I told her about the messed up Teletubbies tape with its innocent cover I found. I showed her the footage, so she believed me. The only evidence I can show you were the screenshots of that snuff episode, before my mom burned the tape with its casing. That night, I had a nightmare where I was in Teletubby Land at night, with the 3 Teletubbies dead and the house still on fire. The demonic Tinky Winky was also around here, lurking. I was a white individual Teletubby trying to find bowls of Tubby custard lying around, until I was caught by the monstrous version of Tinky Winky. As he finally killed me, I woke up screaming, waking up my mom for comfort and help. I was taken to therapy after that horrible experience. Who would make such a heinous snuff episode of a show made for preschoolers? The making of the episode, to this day, is still a mystery. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, because there are more chilling tales to be told. Also check out my other social media profiles. The links for those are down in the description. Thanks for listening.